stop scrolling. If they pull away, it's rarely personal. Here's what to actually do. I'm Mike, your dating coach and professional interrupter of bad habits. Today, we're destroying the anxious avoidant cycle, decoding warm, cold behavior, and I'll give you the exact lines and repair moves to stop the tug of war and build something that actually lasts. Science backed, no drama. Let's go. You're watching Plant the Spark. Real psychology, real talk, and occasionally terrible jokes about texting. Quick background. Attachment theory. Bowlby and Ainsworth. They show us how early relationships shape adult love styles. That's the foundation. Today we use that foundation like a toolbox, not an excuse. You'll get why hot-cold happens, how it becomes a loop, and practical therapeutic moves. Gottman repair, negotiation, CBT style regulation to fix it. Ready? Cool. Breathe. We start with the basics. Now, a little quick primer here. Attachment theory began with John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth. They showed kids form internal working models, basic expectations about whether others will be available and responsive. And as adults, those models show up as attachment styles. The common adult categories are things like, secure, anxious, which is kind of preoccupied, avoidant, which is kind of dismissive, and fearful avoidant, which is really disorganized, kind of a mess. Now, secure people feel safe, right? They feel safe to seek support and to give it. While anxious folks, they want closeness and they fear rejection, right? They hyper scan for signs of withdrawal. Now, avoidant people value independence, and they often downplay their emotion, sometimes pulling away as the closeness kind of grows, right? Now, the fearful avoidant, they pull with both fear of abandonment and fear of intimacy. The attachment styles aren't destiny, they're patterns. We can change these things with awareness and practice. So, how does the actual anxious avoidant cycle work? All right, here's the loop in plain English. The anxious person wants reassurance. The anxious person signals texts, questions, neediness. The avoidant person feels smothered. The avoidant person withdraws. The anxious person escalates. The avoidant person withdraws. Relationship tension increases. It's emotional ping pong. Now, why does this loop escalate? Well, there's really two reasons: physiology and interpretation. Our nervous systems interpret withdrawal as threat. The anxious person flips into hypervigilance mode. The avoidant person's nervous system flips to self-soothe by distancing. Then both people validate each other's worst fears. So what happens when she texts, "Are you busy?" and then he takes 4 hours to reply? She imagines the worst, right? She texts again. He reads the tone, feels pressured, and doubles down on being busy. Or he goes quiet. Boom, pull away, and chase. Now, which one was the anxious attachment style and which one was the avoidant? It's pretty obvious. Now, let's talk tactics. Not because people plan these behaviors like Bond villains or something, right? But because our nervous systems are clever manipulators when they're scared. It's your body that's actually scared here. You're going into hyper overdrive. Your sympathetic nervous system is jumping into fight or flight because each attachment pattern has a playbook they run. And often without even realizing it. We can't control this sometimes, right? And make sure to watch to the end of this video, where I'm going to actually give you some practical tips and quick drills to maintain your peace, right? And stop this roller coaster from hell. All right, let's go ahead and start with the anxious type. Their tactics come from fear of abandonment, my friend. If I can just get a sign they care, I'll calm down. The problem is these tactics usually do the opposite. So one of the tactics that the anxious partner uses is called the emotional detective. They overanalyze everything: punctuation, emoji choice, the exact time of a text. A simple K becomes a 3-hour internal crisis to these people. Their brain basically runs CSI relationship unit. They also run something called the interrogator. They chase clarity like oxygen. Are we okay? Do you still love me? What's wrong? Every single hour. It's not manipulation, it's regulation. Their nervous system needs reassurance like a phone needs a charger. They also use something called the preemptive strike, right? They might threaten to leave first. Maybe we shouldn't talk anymore. Hoping you'll chase them back. It's emotional insurance. If they reject first, they can't be hurt. There's also this thing called overgiving, right? Acts of service on steroids. They'll bring coffee, do favors, overextend, hoping generosity earns safety. But that often flips power imbalance, reinforcing anxiety. And of course, there's the old social proof gambit, right? Posting selfies or I'm out living my best life stories designed to get a reaction. It's a protest behavior. I'll make you miss me. Ironically, it signals insecurity to someone already fearing enmeshment. Anxiously attached people display hyperactivating strategies, right? This is according to McConser and Shaver in 2007. Attempts to maintain proximity through attention-seeking reinsurance or caretaking is biology. It's not some type of villainy, right? These people aren't trying to be manipulative. And, then there's the avoidant partner. Now, their goal is to maintain autonomy at all costs. Their tactics come from fear of engulfment, right? If I let them in too close, I lose control. So they do things like the disappearing act, right? They withdraw physically, emotionally, or digitally. They need solitude to regulate, but don't always signal it clearly, right? Which triggers panic in the anxious partner. Another thing the avoidant does is this thing called rationalizing, right? They intellectualize emotions. You're overreacting. Let's be logical. It's not cruelty necessarily, right? It's emotional armor. Turning feelings into data helps them avoid vulnerability. Avoidants also do this thing called the scheduled defense. Suddenly they're too busy. Gym, work, hobbies, all of these little activities, right? And it all amps up when intimacy rises. Avoidants subconsciously use productivity as a shield from closeness. They also ghost by inches. They don't vanish all at once. They don't vanish immediately. They taper. Shorter replies, longer gaps, fewer we statements. It's slow fade camouflage that keeps control without full confrontation. They also do this thing called the counter-dependent flex. When anxious partners ask for closeness, they double down on independence talk. I just need space. I'm not like other people who text all the time. This is a boundary. They're reasserting their identity. Now, avoidants use deactivating strategies according to Fraley and Shaver in a 2000 study because mental and behavioral habits to suppress attachment needs and restore emotional distance are needed for them. They deactivate to feel safe, right? The cost, though, is a lot of the time it's mental and emotional starvation in the relationship. And so anxious partners hyperactivate, doing more to feel close. Avoidance deactivate, doing less to feel safe. And both are reacting to fear, not logic, right? The anxious fear of abandonment, the avoidant fears loss of autonomy. Each partner's defense confirms the other's fear. It's like emotional jujitsu. Both think they're protecting themselves, but end up throwing each other off balance. And that is not what you want to do in a relationship. And if you're listening thinking, that's me, look, man, I'm not trying to shame you. Sister, I'm all for you. I want to give you some pattern awareness because tactics lose power when you spot them in real time. Ask yourself, is this move getting me closer or just soothing my fear temporarily? That one question breaks like 90% of these cycles because most of the time it does nothing for you except for self-soothe, which ultimately isn't going to help if it's not actually taking care of the problem. Now, let me break down one of the most powerful tools in attraction. This little devil is something called the hot cold cycle or push pull. It's used by narcissists and manipulators, abusers, but unfortunately, it can sometimes be the go to for someone with an anxious or avoidant style of attachment. Now, why do people do it? What is hot cold? It's the social equivalent of flicking a light switch on and off in someone's head. People go hot cold for many reasons. Not all of them are malicious, right? Common causes can be fear, past hurt, testing boundaries, lack of self awareness, attachment style, stress, or convenience. Now, mixed signals often reflect conflicting motivations, right? I mean, wanting connection but fearing dependency. That internal conflict creates ambivalence. And this can play out as hot, which equals closeness, and then cold, which equals distance. Let's be real. There are some real jerk offs out there that use hot cold to manipulate, right? Most just don't have better tools in the moment. So don't assume malice first. Interpret behavior, not motive. So, how do you stop the loop? If you're anxious, your goal isn't to control them, it's to regulate yourself. So your behaviors don't trigger chase, right? Fast, practical steps. So you name the feeling out loud to yourself. Something like, I'm feeling anxious. This is going to help to reduce the amygdala reactivity. Next, you want to delay the reactive text by a minute. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this helpful? You can use a short, neutral check-in script. Hey, I'm feeling a little insecure right now. Can we talk later tonight? This signals ownership and invites repair rather than demanding it. And that's huge. Now, why do these things work? Because ownership reduces blame, and ownership signals to the avoidant person that they aren't the entire problem, and that reduces their urge to flee. Now, how do you stop the loop for an avoidant? If you lean avoidant, your goal isn't to go soft serve all the time. It's to stay present enough that your partner doesn't escalate into panic. Fast, practical moves can be things like micro steps toward connection, something like 30 seconds of eye contact. I'm here, right? Send them a I'm here text when you can. Small consistency builds trust. Offer a short buffer. I'm slammed for the next 2 hours. Can we talk like maybe after 8 p.m.? The key is specifying time, right? You're giving that anxious partner something to hold on to so they don't go into that spiraling loop of does he or does she love me? Avoidance shrinks with predictable availability. That's what we're getting at here. Now, an avoidant can also mirror their vulnerability briefly. You don't need to overextend, right? A short, validating phrase goes a long way, especially with someone with anxiety issues. Something like, I hear you. I'll check in later. And this works because avoidants fear losing autonomy, right? And this gives them short, predictable, small contact bursts, right? And it reduces their threat while also preserving space and also helping out their partner. Now for the pro moves, repair techniques based on relationship science from Gottman and clinical practice, right? When you're in a spiral, you want to stop it fast. And here are the steps you can use in the moment. First, we call it the soft startup. Lead with curiosity, not accusation. Replace, you never text me back with, I feel worried when I didn't hear from you. Are you okay? A repair attempt is any attempt to de-escalate. Humor, touch, apology, check-in. Gottman's research shows couples who make and accept repair attempts survive conflict better. If your partner tries to repair, accept it. Don't dismiss it with too little too late. All right, time out with plan, right? If emotions spike, take a time out, right? Like your children again, because you're acting like it probably. But set a return time. I need 20 minutes. Let's talk at 7:20. And this removes ambiguity. Validation. Even if you disagree, validate the feeling. It's really important, right? I get why you feel hurt. I understand. Validation reduces defensive escalation, right? It's doing something for you as well. Behavioral agreements. Negotiate a mini contract. When one of us feels distant, we will do X, say a scheduled 10-minute call, something like that. Practical, specific, non-moralizing. So here's a little example that you could use, right? The anxious person says, I felt anxious when I didn't hear from you. The avoidant, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were worried. I'll set a check-in time tonight. Now, so you see, that exchange reduces blame and it creates new predictable rhythms. It's a solution, it's simple, and it doesn't invade either of the people's boundaries or their attachment style. Long-term survival in a relationship is negotiation. Use negotiation language, not ultimatums, right? Basic negotiation steps. State your need with an I statement. I need X to feel safe. Offer a compromise. I can do Y if you can try Z. Agree on measurement. We'll try this for 2 weeks and check in. Respect the outcome. If behavior doesn't change, you decide if the relationship fits your needs. That's not revenge. It's self-care. And self-care is really important because you don't want to be in a relationship if you are not feeling good about yourself or them as well. So here's a quick script for this negotiation, right? Something that maybe you can use. And you can use this word for word if you want, if it fits. All right. I need to know we'll check in if we're apart more than 4 hours. I'm willing to text a short okay when I'm busy if that works for you. Can we try that for 2 weeks and then talk about how it's going? Now, why this works? It removes ambiguity and turns emotional volatility into an experiment. Humans respond to clarity, and we all love science, baby. That's why you're at Plant the Spark. All right, some practice drills. Practice makes the nervous system change. Try these drills this week. I'm going to call this first one the 3-minute regulation. When triggered, do 3 minutes of paced breathing. I would suggest the 4-6-4 breathing technique. And then send that calm message. You can also do the micro availability rule. Avoidance commit to one predictable act per day. Anxious partners, note when it happens and thank them. Positive reinforcement, a little reward, changes habits. And who doesn't like a compliment? You can also do something called the weekly check-in. Set 15 minutes weekly, right, to share vulnerability without problem solving, only listening and validation. I promise you, this one step, if it won't repair or heal your relationship, at least it will give you some clarity. These are practical tools from therapy adjacent methods, right, that many couples find helpful. Problem is, right, we're all individuals, so individual results are going to vary. Now, let's do a real quick frequently asked question, rapid fire. Quick answers to common freakouts, I guess. Question: they pulled away. Do I ghost back? No. Ghosting escalates anxiety and reduces repair chances. Question: how long do I wait before I let go? Dude, there's no universal timetable. Use boundaries, decide the maximum you can tolerate, and stick to it compassionately. Question: what if they refuse to negotiate? Honey, that's a red flag. Repeated refusal to co-create safety suggests incompatibility. They're not trying. They don't want to do what you want for the relationship. Compatibility boundaries are personal, but grounded in evidence that mutual repair capacity predicts relationship stability. We need people who are willing to look at repair. So my final challenge to all you beautiful people out there: for 1 week, practice ownership plus predictability. If you're anxious, own your feelings briefly and ask for a small, concrete thing. If you're avoidant, give one reliable signal each day. Track what happens. Most couples who try these micro shifts, they see emotional volatility calm down. It works, man. And if it doesn't, maybe it's time to move on. Maybe it's time to get some actual professional help, therapeutic counseling. Right? These videos are great, but they're not the end all. All right, if you found this useful, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment with one tiny action you'll practice this week. Share this with someone stuck in the hot, cold hell. I'm Mike. Go plant the spark, not the landmines. I'll see you next time.